first, I want to thank everyone that asked questions, because questions are how you start to learn and understand this stuff. And someone brought up a question about this problem right here. I hope you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. So someone brought up a question about this problem, and this has to do with compositions, but this is a composition that only gives you a graph, and you have to figure out what the solution will be based just on the graph. So let's take a look at this problem. Okay, the first part, actually, I think I'm going to let's screenshot this and take this to this place right here so I can actually write on it. Okay, so on this graph, the first thing they want you to do is they want you to find g of f of -1. So let me write that down with my handwriting. So g of f of -1. I'm going to write it like this because what I have found is that it's more readable if you use the parentheses instead of using that little circle. And I think I talked about that in the previous video. But the first part that we look at is always the innermost function. So I'm going to look at f of -1 first. Now notice on this graph you have two different graphs. At the top you have g of x, and at the bottom you have f of x. So this first part that's asking you to find f of -1 means you have to go to the f function, which is the one at the bottom, and then you have to find where x is equal to -1. So if I go on this graph and find x equal to -1, it would be right here at this spot where I just put the box. So f of -1 is right there. What you need to find is the y value at that point. The y value at that point is going to be 1. So therefore, the value of f of -1 is going to be 1. So in place of f of -1, I'm going to put just 1. Okay? So now the next part is now we deal with the g function. And the g function is saying, okay, g of 1. That means go to the g function, which is the one at the top, and find where x is equal to 1. So on this graph, I'm going to go until I find x is equal to 1. And it's going to be right here where I put this red box. So x is equal to 1 right there. I need to figure out what the y value is at that point. And the y value there is 6. So the answer to this is 6. So it's like you have to look at both of the functions in order to figure out what your answer is going to be. So let me put this answer in. Where is it? Right here. Okay. Let me put this answer in. This is 6. And make sure I got it right, because if I don't, I need to reevaluate. Now the next part asks you to find g of f of 0. So let's switch the screen over. And I'm going to erase everything that I just did on here. Patient. Okay, so the next part wants me to find g of f of 0. See how I wrote it? G of f of 0. Now, you always work with the innermost function first. So I'm working with the one that's inside the parentheses, the f of 0. So f of 0 means go to the f function, which is the one at the bottom, and find where x is equal to 0. I'm going to put a red box at where x is equal to 0. X is equal to 0 right here. Now, what is my y value right there? My y value is also 0. So the answer to f of 0 is actually 0. So in place of the part that I have underlined in red, I'm just going to put 0 because that's what it's equal to. Now, This is telling me to go to the g function and find where x is equal to 0. So the g function is the one at the top, and I'm going to put, actually let me change colors here. I'm going to put the green box where x is equal to 0. And that would be right here. Now, what is the y value right there? The y value right there is 7. So the answer to this question is 7. Sorry. Okay, so let me put 7 in here. Okay, I want to do these last two because they switch the order. What does it say? F of g of -1. F of g of -1. I'm going to screenshot this. F of g of -1. Just so I can have a fresh screen here. F of g of -1. So blow this up a little bit, and we need to find, let me write this in my handwriting. When you write stuff in your own handwriting, I promise it makes it look better. So f of g of -1. So what do I do first? I do the innermost function first. I need to do g of 1. So I need to go to the g function, which is the one at the top, and I need to find where x is equal to -1. That's going to be right here. X is equal to -1 right there. But what is the y value? Because that's what I want, the y value. The y value is 5. So in place of g of -1, I'm going to put 5. Now it's asking me to do f of 5. So f of 5 means I go down to the f function and find where x is equal to 5. That will be right here where I put this red box. And the y value there is equal to 1. So the answer to this problem is 1. So I go back and I put 1. Okay, one more problem because I want to go through all of them. Let me erase. Okay, the last problem says find f of g of 4. So what do I do first? What part of this problem do I do first? I do g of 4. That means go to the g function. Find where x is equal to 4. X is equal to 4 right here. Okay, what's the y value there? The y value there is also 4. So in place of g of 4, I'm going to put 4. So in place of this part where I have underlined in red, it's just going to be 4 because the y value at x equals 4 is 4 as well. Now let me change color and do f of 4. That means go to the f function, which is the one at the bottom, and find where x is equal to 4. That would be right here where I put the blue box, and the y value right there is actually 0. So the answer to this is going to be 0. Please be right. Please be right. Please, please, please. Yes. So that is how you work a composition function when you have no equation. All you have is the actual graph. So I hope this has been helpful. Like I said, continue to ask questions because that helps yourself and it also helps your classmates, okay?